Sure, I'm okay with it.
Ricky, your thoughts?
Yes. In fact, I was going to bring it up at the end of the meeting, but since it's been brought up now,
Okay.
Yep. Okay.
Dan? All right, Anthony, would you mind putting that on the agenda for our next meeting?
I will, and I'll check to see if there's any policy that the town has or that CMP has about the use of their poles.
Okay, and then maybe just a little background information about how the flags came to be and how they came to be taken down.
Yep.
All right, is there any other public comment? All right, seeing none, I'd like to move on to old business now. The approval of the August 25th, 2020 Select Board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
I'll make that
There were-
motion.
I had a couple of things. Oh, okay.
All right, so first and seconded, all those in favor? All right, 5-4-0 against. All right, Kathy, go ahead.
Oh, there were just some, where did it go now? Oh, there it is. There are just a couple of things under the board appointments. They're grammatical, okay? Tagmeyer is misspelled.
Oh, it is. Oh, it
Yeah.
sure is.
And it says, Mrs. Wall moved approval. Now, I'd like to move as much as I can, but 2 moves don't need to be in there.
Okay.
And I think that was it. Everything else looked quite in order.
Okay, did anyone else have anything? All right, seeing none. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes from the August 25th Select Board meeting? 5-4-0 against. Anthony, are we okay doing that by hand or should I be doing a called vote?
I think for a routine item like that, it's fine.
Okay. All right, moving on to new business. We have board appointments. The first up is Carol Johnson. Is Carol here? I don't
Does
see.
not seem to be here. I was anticipating that she would be, and I texted her, but I have not gotten a response.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to table this until later in the meeting if Carol can join us.
make that motion.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor of tabling that item? 5-4-0 against. All right, the second appointment that we have is to Michael Barrett, who'd like to be on the Transfer and Recycling Committee.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
Second that.
All right, is there any discussion? If we have Mike on the committee, how many seats are left?
That will fill the committee at that point.
That's what I thought. High five.
very
All
good.
right. I do love the Oscar the Grouch quote. All right, if there's no further discussion, all those in favor? 5-4-0 against. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome.
Welcome aboard.
In
Again.
back, aren't you?
You can't just stay away, can you? It's really hard.
I've been trying, but it just doesn't work.
No, nope, I'm with you on that. All right, next up, we have the consideration of awarding the contract for the LED streetlight conversion.
Make that motion.
I'll second that.
All right, we're open for discussion.
Was that the only price we got back?
I'm sorry, Rick, can you repeat that, please?
Was that the only bid price we got back?
No.
No,
So,
the others are in here.
yeah, in your packet, you have, we received 3 bids. You received all 3 of those in your packet. So the low bidder was Affinity LED, and the company president, Steve Lieber, is here with us tonight, joining us in the meeting. Affinity has done these sort of projects all across New England and in a lot of, including in a lot of Maine communities, including Augusta, Waterville, Manchester, and Reedfield. So what you have before you is a total project cost of $16,653. that would have a payoff in energy savings of about 34 months. But Affinity has also given us a proposal to network all of our streetlights at a cost of $24,168, which would increase that payoff to 45 months. And I'm glad that Mr. Lieber is here with us because he can more fully explain what the difference between those two packages are and what would be the potential benefits of networking our streetlights.
Okay, do you mind holding on just a moment, Anthony?
Sure.
What I'd like to do is, so that we have those total costs, and then can we move to the next lighting company that submitted a bid so that we can make all of those a matter of public record?
Oh, certainly. So it's a little complicated. Affinity was actually the only one that did a total price. And you see on the second page, number 3 there, you see the 16,653 and then the 24,168. The other companies, you see the first line of Affinity's pricing sheet lists the audit, design, installation, and first year maintenance is $8,017. So compare that to the lump sum price for Tanko lighting, which is the next bid sheet in your packet, and it's $18,000. So that first line item alone is $10,000 more than Affinity and more than the base bid, the Smart Ready bid for Affinity. And then you've got all the additional costs in addition.
Okay. Let me just interrupt for a second. Do we want to look at the 3 bids like side by side, folks, or do we want to take them one at a time? I feel like if we're looking at this audit line on one and compare it to the other 2 and a bottom line cost at the end of each one would be good.
Melanie, I guess what got me, I missed it because I saw this stuff on the town stationery with no name on the head of it, I guess.
Yeah, and my apologies, Rick. I forgot to write Affinity's name on this. This is actually the sheet as they submitted it to us because we included in the RFP a form for them to fill out. And so those first 2 pages are Affinity's bid. And on the second page, the bottom 2 lines are the 2 totals between the Smart Ready project and the fully networked project.
Oops.
Okay, guess I got it. Usually we have them, a spreadsheet with them all listed out.
Yeah, but the problem is when I started to do a spreadsheet is it's not an apples to apples comparison for each one of those. And so for instance, let's see. So you see under the unit pricing for Affinity, they have the 4-foot long arms, the 6-foot long, the 8-foot long, which all the others did, but they also included installation and then the networking cost in addition to that, which the other bidders did not include. And so it wasn't, when I tried to put it on a spreadsheet, it wasn't a good apples to apples comparison. But I think if you'll, again, look at the fact that on page number 2 of the Affinity bid, those 2 bottom line costs, the 16,653, that's the total project cost, and that alone is lower than the audit, design, installation, and first year maintenance cost for each of the other 2 bidders. One of them bid $18,000 for that cost compared to $8,000 for Affinity, and then the other one bid $19,722. So you can see that's before you even get into the different mechanisms that's involved in the bid.
Right. No, I understand that. It does look like this real term. I'm assuming the bid that is $23,671 because it has something on the bottom about smart controls. No. Give that. Come here.
Yeah. So again, Real Term provided us 2 different bids, sort of like what Affinity did, and so that first page would be comparable to Affinity's Smart Ready bid, and so you can see that the Smart Ready bid for Affinity is $16,000, and then the Real Term Energy bid is $19,700, plus all of the additional costs for all the apparatuses.
I get it.
So,
I'm satisfied with Affinity's bid, but
And I'm sorry, I mean, I tried to do a spreadsheet and I just couldn't figure out a good way to compare that apples to apples.
If you, good evening. I think I'm unmuted. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
Steve.
Uh, Mr. Wilson, if you don't mind, I think, we're involved in bidding all through New England. And I think I can clarify a little bit because generally, all of these communities that we've listed on our introduction sheet of, and then given in our packet, a list of all of those that were competitively selected. Generally, we are bidding against Tanco and Real Term Energy. So I think I might be able to provide some clarity. The gap may not be as big as you see there because they may have interpreted it differently. I would say, speaking frankly, that Smart Ready, which is basically a non-networked LED street lighting conversion, basically photo cells, being put on top of the new. If you were to compare these three, logically to me, knowing these companies and some of the input that they've got on your document, that our baseline bid is $16,653. That Tanco Lighting, which is out of the San Francisco Bay Area, California, is $18,000. And that Real Term Energy is $19,722 all in. And then I think they've given you breakdown on some things like luminaires and then some additional incremental things. For example, if you needed new mast arms, if you needed a new pole, if you needed removal of a light. But logically, that's generally where the delta is by those percentage points. I don't want to confuse anything or anybody, but I would say it probably makes sense. And then it looks to me that Real Term Energy provided you a networked proposal of $23,671, which is using Ubiquia smart controls. And I'd be happy to comment because we know that company well. And we have given you a smart networked proposal of $24,168. So what full disclosure here, in terms of bid prices, it appears that my company is the lowest bidder on the standard. Networked is a little bit different because we're not really comparing apples to apples, but we are not the lowest bidder. We're a few $100s higher. What we're offering, though, is the #1 networking system that has recently been introduced. This is a very quick changing industry, and Verizon has clearly moved ahead as the industry leader and also selected us for New England to be their representative based on our impact in the street lighting area. So you've got 3 bids where, yes, we're the lowest and we're a few $100s higher on the networked, but Verizon is clearly unquestionably the company that we recommend because there's nobody who compares to them. It's a cell-based network system. And just to share, which is in your introduction letter from me in our bid package, the towns of Fairfield, Hallowell, Booth Bay, Newport, and Samford, Southport, and Winthrop will all be putting in Verizon systems. In fact, Fairfield and Hallowell have already been installed, and we just recently finished the city of Sanford. We're actually moving on to a phase 2 project in the city of Sanford. It was a very big project, about 1,000 streetlights. So Verizon's NetSense system is by far the best, but just in terms of clarification, we think, most importantly, that you make your decisions based on the best information provided. And it is a little bit unclear based on how they filled those out. But I think I feel pretty comfortable letting you know that that's what the pricing differences are.
Okay.
That
I'm
helps.
sorry. What was your name again?
My name is Steve Lieber. I am the president and the founder of Affinity LED Lighting. We started in 2012 out of Portsmouth, New Hampshire. We're based in Dover, New Hampshire. Our facility is in the old Washington Street Mill in Dover, where we occupy about half of the 5th floor of that mill. We are not only a service provider, which is a project management company, a pretty standard in the industry, where our competitors generally are sourcing a light from a lighting distributor, sourcing a GIS company, sourcing a contractor, and doing the work for you. The difference with us is that we build our own lights, and our facility is a UL and Intertech certified manufacturing facility in Dover, New Hampshire. And every single one of the lights that has gone up in 70 communities across northern New England, which includes all NHDOT highways and turnpikes that we just completed across the state, are built by U.S. veterans in my shop. And we're very proud to be providing employment opportunities to those who have served our country and protected it. And that was one of the big challenges for me with a career in supply chain when starting this company 8 years ago, was to determine the best way and how to build the best product possible and also do it in the US. And that was our solution. We entered the exterior lighting business and manufacturing. We also do, we build smart lighting for interior schools, office buildings, et cetera, commercial buildings, all that are programmable smart LED lighting is also built in my shop by our very talented group of veterans. So I hope that helps as an introduction of who I am. My colleague, John Brannigan, was also, I think, invited, but he had a personal occasion that he was unable to attend tonight. A milestone birthday for a very close friend of his that we both know for 20 years.
So quick question, Steve. So if these would be smart lights, who does the controlling?
So if you made a decision to go networked, a Verizon specific network would be set up for the town of Belgrade. And depending on who would take on that responsibility, perhaps it would be Anthony or somebody so designated. You would have the ability to monitor your street lights. You would have the ability to know when a street light is impacted. Either it's not lighting, or sometimes it can be the first sign of electrical power going down because it sends out a last gasp. You'll also have the ability to control to brighten and dim the lights. While today, the current tariff for Central Maine Power, actually for all of the state of Maine, does not allow you to reduce your costs by reducing your consumption. Should you decide to go networked, will be joining what will be dozens of communities, if not more, in Central Maine Power territory, that will be ready with utility grade metered streetlights. Right now it's unmetered. You are charged based on the Farmer's Almanac. How many hours of darkness per day is how you get charged, because there's no meters on streetlights. They're just secondaries are connected to the lines. In the future, where you have smart networked lighting, where you have the ability to change the brightness of your lights, you'll have the ability to schedule the lights, you'll have the ability to do all of that immediately as soon as it's installed. But that will mean also that you'll not only be able to monitor your streetlights if a light is out, but also to save money, depending on how you control them. So the control is in your hands and not just on the fixed wattage that is in the streetlight when we deliver it to you and set it up. The difference in Smart Ready, which is a standard, is that the lights are built already. We build every single product for the future. Smart Ready means that the top connector that has a photocell on it normally has for those of you who have ever fiddled around with one of those streetlight photocells, it's got a 3-pin connector that pops in the top. It's a twist lock,
Oh,
very similar to a 220 twist lock plug. These are all built with a 7-pin connection that allows for plugging in replacement of the photocell and plugging in a smart node in the future as well. The difference is that since we're going up on the poles with a licensed contractor approved by CMP, and also being up there in a bucket truck that can be near high voltage wiring, that you don't have to go up there again to convert to networked lighting later on. So this is when you read articles or hear things about smart cities, smart networking. This is some of the basic infrastructure that is part of that.
Does anyone have any further questions?
Got a couple.
Okay, Ricky?
First of all, I think Mike Barrett was on the committee when we first started this. Am I right, Mike?
No. I did
Maybe it was
talk-
Jack.
Jack was, and I was.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We look so much alike.
Yeah, that's it. Is this one of the companies that you guys really push towards?
Actually, this was the company that we decided, I'm trying to think who did the studies on it. Oh, it used to be on the budget committee. Hollingsworth. Was it Hollingsworth? No.
Yes.
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 Howard.
Okay.
Howard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Howard did most of the legwork on it, and he actually came back and said that and reported to us that Affinity was first choice.
Thank you. The next thing is, Anthony, did this company meet all the specs to the request that you put out?
It did. It did. And one thing I don't, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Steve, but didn't you mention to me that also one of the benefits of the networking is that if there is a mechanical malfunction with a light, it will be alerted via that network, and that way we can get one of your repairmen in to replace that fixture as quickly as possible?
Absolutely. And the benefits of what Verizon, the reason why Verizon has jumped to the front is in Augusta and Gardner, we installed a mesh network system. Mesh network means all of these nodes that are on all these streetlights, and of course in Augusta and Gardner there were, a much larger quantity of them. But a mesh network is where all these nodes sort of hop between each other to create a mesh network and talk to each other. As long as they can be within a close distance. The problem was Michelle Flewelling in Fairfield said, I'm very interested in this, networked system, but we're real concerned because while downtown Fairfield is, pretty much clustered, there are areas where we almost don't even get cell service in this town. And I'm just wondering, should we be looking at your mesh network system to do 60 or 70% of the lights and leave the rest of them alone? And what happens with the mesh network systems, they're a lot more expensive because they not only do the nodes talk to each other, but then they have to speak to a gateway, and a gateway has to be connected in for an internet connection. It was the state of the now 2 years ago and 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Dover, New Hampshire, also the only city community in the state of New Hampshire to have a network system, has the same system. Great system, except that it didn't have full coverage without having, you know, gateways for nodes to talk to, and any ones that were out of distance didn't work. The communication is very important because whether you have full 4G or LTE communication across the entire boundaries of the town or not, these nodes actually speak in a small 3G packet. So where you might not even be able to get a call or text, these nodes pick up signal. And that's the great thing about it. So while Michelle was challenging us, we were talking with Verizon, finishing talks with Verizon, because they had to prove themselves. They were just coming out on the market. So this is very new technology. It's working outstanding. And there's no gateways needed. As soon as the light is powered up, it pops up into the Verizon network, which is a map basically of the community that's been set up by their IT people. And whoever needs access and gets use of that, needs to be provided use of that, we would, you know, take care of all the training with the Verizon people, their project management people, as well as their IT people, do a training session with you. So when a light is out, it'll tell you if you've got only because of the way it monitors, it'll tell you if you've got voltage issues out there in the system. If current is a problem, it'll tell you if there's power coming through the system, but the light is not on, because it's been sent a signal to turn on, whether you've programmed it to say, follow the atomic clock or turn on 20 minutes before sundown, those decisions you make. But it will know and send out an alarm to say, there's a light here that needs to be checked. So I hope, long answer to a short question, probably.
I have another question.
Yes.
This is for Anthony. Is this within the budget that we approved for
That
this?
would be my next question.
Yeah, so in my memo, I mentioned, you may recall, Ricky, that the voters approved a warrant article for $23,000 for this project. And so the network cost eclipses that by $1,468. However, the voters also approved a $10,000 budget for streetlights for this year. And through August, we've only spent $4,158 of that $10,000 budget. So if you're interested in the networked streetlights, and I think that you should be because of the benefits that Steve has talked about, what I would propose is that we pay the balance of that $1,468 out of the streetlight line item.
That's all I want to know. Make sure we've got the money to do it. So.
Okay, Dan?
Yeah, I've got a couple questions. Probably start with ones for Anthony, because you said that they met all of the criteria on the bid, but yet I'm seeing two lines that they didn't.
What is that?
Line 2 says they can help coordinate, so we don't have a price. And then line 4 about putting in new poles if needed. They don't do that, so we don't have a price.
Well, and Steve, when you say CMP responsibility, that means that that's at CMP's cost, correct?
We don't get into the business of putting poles in the ground, particularly those that are going to be that are, you're talking about a new town pole that has to be wired up. In your area, probably Kevin Wiswell of Wiswell Electric, where and you may see his trucks around town, perhaps, is probably going to be the installer. They are an exclusive installer for us. They do pole work, but we would at arm's length introduce you to Wiswell Electric for a price. We are not comfortable telling you what it's going to cost to put into your town a pole that's going to get hooked up to central main power, because that likely requires central main power to come in with linemen to pull wire.
Okay.
and
And,
connect.
and that's my my error there, because when it said CMP responsibility, I thought that was something that CMP would be doing as opposed to the town doing.
Right, so we need a price to compare on that, you know, if you need to get a hold of them and find out what they would charge. And then the
Okay.
second thing is, the yearly maintenance, again, we have nothing to compare it to award a contract, because, one has a $1,360 yearly maintenance, and the other one, we have no idea.
So let me ask a question of Steve. Steve, do you have outfits that you typically subcontract with or put towns in touch for the maintenance cost?
Yes, that's a very good question. The reason why zero is there, first of all, because the first year, obviously, you're going to have a 10-year warranty. So on our equipment, so you're putting lights up that are going to be up for the next 20 years. For the next 10 years, your relationship was with us, that anything that happens to the equipment, if there are any failures or malfunctions, we're responsible to make sure that it's fixed. We cover the full labor in the first year. And then after that first year, yes, you need a service provider. Where our competitors are different from us is they set you up on an annual insurance policy that says if anything happens, you're covered because you're paying us so many dollars per year. The failure rate of LED streetlights is so low that it's likely you may have no service calls in some years. And I want to give you an example. We've put in almost 46,000 streetlights across New Hampshire and Maine. We've had 32 driver failures in 4.5 years since we've started installing. So the metrics are off the chart in terms of quality. And part of that is because we use only the highest quality components that we put into it. We don't have to cut any corners to keep shareholders and stockholders happy. This is my company, and we don't make any, we don't cut any corners on materials. And I think any of those communities that we've given you the list with names, emails, and phone numbers that we've listed that we have relationships with on streetlights, you can call any one of them and they'll tell you that they really haven't had many issues with service. Now, but you still do need a service provider. And Mr. Newman, and that is very important. Most communities, we are connecting up with a local installer who has the qualifications and certifications to be up on a CMP pole. But you're going to now own the mast arms with your payoff of your net book value. You'll own the mast arms, you'll own the wire, and you'll actually own the Cobra head that we're putting up, the new street light. We will put you in touch with an installer who will come when you need help. But we don't want to put a value on an annual value that you're paying without service being needed. We have communities that we haven't had a single service call in 3 years. So to give
Steve,
you a $1,300 charge or a $600-700 charge a year to keep you on the books is not our game. At arm's length, we will connect you with an installer, and probably Kevin Wiswell. Yes, ma'am.
So, Steve, I have to say, though, that if it's going to happen, it's probably going to happen in Belgrade. So, essentially, this part of the contract would be on us, and we would have to find our own installer or the one that you're recommending. But, I mean, if we're going to have one, then we probably are going to end up needing to do our own RFP every year to have something like that, because you do have to have some type of insurance if, you know, so if things are warranted, but the labor and that is not warranted, we really are just on a free-for-all, because if you have to have this installer come and do this work, they could charge whatever they wanted to. So we legitimately can't budget for that.
We have, we can provide you recommendations on how to budget. We've used, generally we've used numbers to say, consider yourself at a 2% failure rate, which is a pretty high number. That would be one light for you. A 2% failure rate per year. And again, our metrics at 31, 32, a driver in Augusta just went. Our metrics are so low that it's likely that there's going to be years that you don't have service. But I understand that you have to be prepared and budget something. If you put in a 2% consideration, first of all, you have 1 year from the time that we install. Most importantly, you have 1 year from the time that we install your lights for us to connect you with options, whether through your own connections with a licensed electrician or through one of ours, which would be at arm's length. We will make, there's no financial benefit for us to connect you with a service installer. But we have 1 year to make those decisions together, because from the time we start installing, we're covering you if there's any issues. We're sending a truck in at our cost to take care of any problems.
So Melanie, what I would say to that is, I think probably the first place that we would look would just be, with the firm that we have a relationship with, which would be Generators of Maine.
Well, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say,
Melanie, if I may again, do we have permission to put up people's lights on Central Maine Power poles? Is that, or do we have to pay anything for that? Because those are not our poles, even though we pay for the lights that are on them now.
They belong to the phone company.
Can I help answer that question?
Hi, Mike. Thank you. Okay, go ahead, Steve.
Sure. You have in your proposals, you'll see that there is a cost down on the right-hand side of $5,587. That's a quotation from Central Maine Power for it's called net book value. So under the current tariff, you're paying for delivery service and you're paying for lighting equipment. And the combination of the lighting equipment side is you've basically been renting at to own your equipment across a 15-year period is how the tariff works. So you have undepreciated asset value on the lights that you still have up that Central Maine Power owns, but you've been paying for, and that's the $5,587.
Steve, is that on this thing that has these super tiny?
Yes, look to the right-hand side, the last box on the lower right. Depending
It's the highlighted figure.
The highlighted figure that says net book value $5,587.
Okay.
So Central
We're
Maine
gonna make this
Power.
bigger, Anthony, next time.
Okay.
There's a lot of numbers to show in these. Yes, it's difficult sometimes to read these. Certainly without glasses, I wouldn't be able to do this. So Central Maine Power has given you that quotation. I believe your account executive is Tammy Pierce.
That's correct.
Pierce. Should you decide to go ahead, no matter who you go with, to make your conversion, Tammy Pierce will draft documents for you that will basically, you'll be doing a municipal acquisition of your street lighting equipment. You'll be buying the brackets, they call brackets, we call mast arms, the wiring, and the old Cobra headlights. Once you pay that $5,587, you own your equipment. From that time on, you have the right to change them. This is the process to convert to LED lighting. Every municipality that's done it has gone through the same process, and we'll help you. It's a fairly simple process. It's not difficult, but we will, give Anthony and anybody else who's involved in that assistance in making sure that you're getting the right documents. Central Maine Power is very good at this. They've done it a lot. But it's a matter of you signing the, terms of agreement and the municipal acquisition of your streetlights. Then, Mr. Damron, you have the ability to change those lights. Once you, as Central Maine Power says, no checks, no trucks. You have to buy your lights first.
So that being said, we don't have enough budgeted for this. Because if there's another, let's round it up to $6,000 cost, and if we take some out of the streetlight funding for this year, we still don't have enough to pay for the streetlights that we have currently through the end of the budget season and an additional $6,000.
So Steve, is that $5,500 cost that you pay that upfront to CMP?
The town pays that.
Right. Right. And I'm sorry, I was not aware of that. I was not aware that it was your cost plus the $5,500. And so Melanie is right there, is that we would not have the money appropriated for that particular expense.
So yes, you'll be required to pay the $55.87 directly to Central Maine Power. And then the all-in equipment and installation is the cost that you would be paying to us to execute the complete changeover, depending on whether you go with Smart Ready or networked. And then as a result of those changes, this is where you then save $7,900 a year based on your current inventory of lights and the current tariff that you're paying. Your savings are going to be 86% of what you're paying now. So that's what pays for it. This is what.
Yeah. So gang, that being the case, what I would propose is that we budget for both, we've already, the voters have already appropriated the $23,000 for the conversion. We need to budget the $5,500 in 2021 for the acquisition of the equipment. And we can do that by simply maintaining the $10,000 streetlight budget that we currently have right now, plus the $23,000 that the voters have already appropriated. But we won't be able to execute a contract until January 1st.
Yeah, because the only way to do that January 1st is if we use the ability to spend a quarter of the budget prior to town meeting. Because that's not our year yet. Dan?
Yeah, I still had some other comments on these things before we get too far off them.
Okay.
Sitting here with a calculator. The actual cost difference from Affinity, if they for the basic changeover was 16,653. So if you take out Real Energy, take out that maintenance fee, and just say we're not going to do that, their price is actually 18,362. So that brings it down a little closer. But you also got to look at all these line items down through here. If we need new arms or light removals or whatever, Affinity's prices are more money for each one of those versus the other one. So we could go with the lower bid for Affinity, and then if we have to start doing all these other line items, it actually could come out to be more. So I'm not real sure how we're going to handle that, because the bids, if we don't know how many arms have to be replaced or anything else, I mean, we actually could come in with the lower bid being higher. And then finally, the last thing is, if we decide we want to do it this year, you could do the conversion this year and pay CMP, as long as you use the one that's not the smart ones. And then you could always go back and change over down the road to have them networked and budget that next year.
So Steve, what would that cost be if we wanted to retroactively go back and network the system?
The cost we'd have to work out that cost because it would be a bucket visit, obviously, to go up to change out what would currently be installed as the photo cells and put in the networking. So we'd have to work that cost out for a bucket to be able to just touch each of these again.
Yeah, because it's just unplugging a piece and plugging the new piece in, basically, up off the bucket. So,
Correct.
All right.
In that case, your budgeted money of 23,000 covers your net book value, and the Smart Ready is a total cost of 22,240.
All right. What do we think, guys?
I'm trying to, are we to make a decision on this tonight, or what's our goal here? Do we need some more information? Do we want to table this for a bit? There's some talk about waiting until January now. What are we going to do?
I'd like to find out how much it's going to cost. If we have somebody look at the poles and find out if we think we're going to have to replace any poles, because that could get expensive in a hurry. You know, we start doing that, we may not have enough to budget them. So,
Well, first of all, if there are any poles that need to be replaced, you don't own the poles. Central Maine Power owns the poles. You are purchasing mast arms, wire to the taps, and the Cobra heads only. So if poles need to be changed, that's CMP's responsibility. As part of the tariff, that's why you're not just paying for electricity. As part of that tariff, CMP still is required to maintain the system to transmit and deliver your power to your systems. So the poles are not your responsibility, and that's the reason why we said it's CMP responsibility. The request to install a Newtown pole can be a little bit deceptive. If you're going to add a pole, you've decided we don't have a pole and we want to put a light up. That's the reason why we don't quote it, because CMP's got to run power. A line company's got to come in to run power to put a pole in the ground for you then to finally have to put up a mast arm and wire in a new street light. So quite frankly, we've never till now run into a situation where we've been requested to put in a pole.
okay. And how about the mast arms? Do we know if we've got any that are going to have to be replaced that aren't going to be used? Or are these just in case we ever wanted to add a pole, these prices here?
It's not very often that we need to change a mast arm. When we're installing a mast arm, it's because there's been a request by a community to take an existing pole that has power and now hook up a new street light, to take a new location that's in your pole network. Typically a town is probably a 6 or 7 to 1 ratio. Maybe a more rural town might be a 10 or 12 to 1 ratio of poles, total poles to poles that have streetlights on them. And that would only come into play if, in fact, you said, we'd like to have a light here that one doesn't exist. That's when you get into the conversation about a mast arm. Otherwise, you're probably not going to be in a situation where you have to replace any mast arms. And the best way to understand, to do a quick check is that somebody goes out and looks at your street lights and just take a look and see if you see any issues like, cracked or bent mast arms. Because if that's the case, you ask CMP to replace that before you write them the check, because they currently own it and are responsible for maintaining the system. So if you do this right, again, I don't know of a community that's had to replace a mast arm, quite frankly, across all of our jobs, where they've had to do that so we could install it to replace a broken mast arm. I don't think you're going to have that cost, unless you decide to pick a new location and say, we need a mast arm because we're going to ask Wiswell to, wire in and tap a line for a new street light.
We just had a whole new bunch of poles put in down in the village, didn't we? When they moved things around for the new road. If I recall, there was a great delay in the work along the roadway because of all the new poles that went in.
There's been a lot of pole replacement, A, because of condition, and B, because they need taller poles to allow for more communication space, more external vendors that need to run, utilize space in the communication area for utilities, cable, fiber optic, etc.
Right.
One last question.
Mhm.
On Affinity's pricing. Is there 3 prices or 2 prices?
There are 2 prices. Yeah.
Okay. Because you said something about $23,000 a minute ago, and I'm just trying to figure out how you came up with that.
So you're, sorry if I was confusing. I've looked at these documents so much, they just sort of pop up. If you're looking to be within your budget, and saying, okay, rather than, wait, and if you want to wait, look, it's your decisions. Obviously, we understand you're spending a lot of taxpayer money to do this. If you went with the Smart Ready, the green box in the low, on the right side below the all-in equipment installation total, the green box that says all-in equipment and installation, on that spreadsheet that you have says $16,653. That's what you're paying us. Okay. Then the yellow highlighted net book value, which is what you're not paying to us, you're paying to Central Maine Power, is $55.87. Those two together equal the third line total project cost of $22,240. And then the number below that, the annual OPEX savings, is based on your current tariff that you're paying and based on the new LED tariff. This is what you can expect to save each year because you've made that change. So this is why it's a self-funding project, because you're going to save $7,894 a year based on your current equipment, which then says, about 34 months to pay that off. Once you do that, you're actually putting that whole 86% savings or $7,894 right to the bottom line for the town.
Okay, Jack.
Yeah, Jack Sutton. I'm on the budget committee, and I was involved a little more deeply with this project about, well over a year ago. So I'm out of date with the details. But my understanding at the time, and I may be out of date, was that the town considered, but at that time didn't think it was necessary to go with the full networking. So the budget was based on the 16,000 plus the net value figure, and that's where the budget that we approved came from. I don't recall any discussion of needing any new poles. I assume that this was all going to be on CMP poles that are existing. We weren't going to put in new installations. We were going to put in really replacements for what already exists.
Well, that makes sense that the budget was where we set it at. if the networking wasn't discussed.
I don't have a
That
problem.
was, when I was involved in it, that was part of the deal, that the payoff of the net asset value had to be recognized, and I thought it was in coming up with the $23,000 that was presented to the town and appropriated.
I mean, looking at this, I don't have a problem with it if we're not gonna have to contend with all those other line items that are all more money on one quote than the other. If we don't have to replace arms and remove lights and all this other stuff, if that was just thrown in there for just information, you know, if we don't think we gotta do all that, then I don't have a problem with the quote. Like I said, but just if we think we're gonna start replacing a bunch of that stuff, then all of those line items are more expensive on affinities than the other companies too. So we have to take into account that.
I agree with Jack. I think that we had what we talked about in the committee was about using the existing, you know, what was on the existing poles. And Jack, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Dan McKenzie was also part of that group, was he not?
I think he was from time to time. I don't know as he participated in all
Right.
the discussions. I remember going to a couple of meetings, I think in Chelsea, where a number of town representatives discussed this project and the various companies involved. And my impression was at that time that Affinity was the one that was the logical choice.
Right.
Scott Tilton's home. Yes, Chelsea, we converted Chelsea about a year ago.
Melanie, I think we probably hit about everything we can on this. We're gonna be here all night.
Thank you, Rick.
Yep.
Yeah. So are we looking to award the contract and have it fall within the guidelines of the original proposal? Because then if we do decide to convert to network, that's going to be an additional cost that's clearly going to be offset by some savings. However,
If we have the money, then that's the way we need to go. Are we still gonna be short money because of the thing we gotta pay Central Maine Power? Or are we gonna be all set?
If we go with the Smart Ready, which was the lower one, plus what we got to pay Central Maine Power, it comes up to $22,240. So we should be all right.
I'll make
Yeah, so-
that motion.
Okay.
I will second it.
any further discussion? Anthony?
No, ma'am, I'm good.
All right. So on this one, we'll take a vote. Ernie, how do you vote?
Yes.
Awarding the contract to Affinity in that amount. Kathleen?
Yes.
Rick?
Yeah, yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 5-4-0 against. All right. And
Thank you.
you're welcome. So
Thank you very much.
do we need to do anything to allow Anthony to sign that contract? Do we want to make that part of the motion?
I don't think we have to do anything, do we? Doesn't he have the authority to sign contracts for us once we approve them?
At the direction of the select board.
Yes, once we approve them.
Why don't the chair and the town manager sign it?
That works.
Okay, so Steve, I'll be in touch tomorrow about that.
Great. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks for inviting me, and we're looking forward to working with all of you.
All right, thank you, Steve.
Okay, bye.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda is the consideration of the transfer station paving RFP.
Okay, so I think we explained this to you guys last week, and you directed us to bring you the RFP. And
Yep.
So here it is. We originally had a half dozen bidders on this, and so we will send this back to them and ask them to rebid it. We'll also post it on the MMA website, which many contractors follow pretty closely. If you approve this tonight, we will accept proposals through September the 29th, and we'll we'll bring you those proposals on October the 6th.
Make that motion?
Oh, hang
Second
on.
that.
Okay, so now we're at discussion. Under Appendix A specifications, it says that the work will be performed under the Town of Belgrade Road Commissioner's bond. Why is that not transfer station paving budget money?
Well, the bond, of course, just it ensures that the work will be paid for. So it's more like an insurance policy, but it will be paid for out of the transfer station's capital reserves. That's how we're planning on funding this project.
So I guess then I don't understand that. If we're going to take it out of the transfer station paving budget, why is it first look like it's going to come out of the road commissioner's, the bond for the roads? And then what, we're going to use the money from the transfer station to pay back the bond?
And for a second, I think what that means is that on the job, it's like an insurance policy. If the job gets done right, it's not coming out of the road's bond money. It's just, it's a bond they use all the time.
Yeah, and so for instance, Melanie, if you have a building, well, I'm sure when the town office was built that the contractor had to put up a bond for that to ensure that the work was, like Rick said, done in a fashion that it was required to be. And so in this instance, and you know, that came directly from Morris Childs back when Morris was involved in this previously. He was the one who suggested that this work be conducted under the road commissioner's bond.
Okay, but then, so does the money actually come out of the bond and then it's paid back? No.
No, it's just like Rick said, it's like an insurance policy for the work.
Kind of language. What?
Okay. So it's verbiage that's not actually going to happen.
Not unless something goes awry.
Gotcha.
I think you're talking a different type of bond is what this is. It's not a bond like a loan. It's a bond like an insurance policy.
Correct. That's exactly correct, Dan.
Because I had in my head the bond that we have for the roads.
Oh gosh,
That
no.
Money out of that bond.
I see where you're thinking. Yeah, Dan's right about that.
Yeah, because I'm like, well, why would it come out of the road commissioner's bond? Why wouldn't it come out of the transfer station?
It's a performance.
I've got one question. Why are we going to put the bids out for so long? It's going to put this thing so late into the fall. I'm afraid we might not get it done.
Because I wasn't sure that, you know, with the exception of one of the contractors, Dan, all 5 of those contractors are going to have to come back out to the job site, do their measuring and everything. And I was just concerned that they wouldn't be able to do that in the next week, you know, and you guys meet again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm just afraid it's going to push it out so far that we'll be lucky if we get it done this fall.
Yeah.
Ken?
Ken?
Dan, honestly, at this point right now, I don't think we're going to get it done this fall anyway. Most of those guys are booked out through next spring, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're going to still have to go out there this fall and do some patching then.
Yeah.
If not, it's going to be a disaster through the winter when we start getting frost.
Yeah, I have to patch it throughout the winter. I've been doing it with regrind in all the holes, but you know, it is what it is at this point. It's kind of late.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any more discussion?
I mean, it is September now.
All right. If there's no more discussion, I don't think we got a motion on this one.
Yes, Ricky made a motion and Ernie seconded it.
Okay. So, Ernie, how do you vote?
Yes, I vote yes.
Okay, Kathy, how do you vote to put out this RFP?
Yes.
All right, Rick
Yes.
and Dan.
Yes.
All right, and I say yes as well. 5-4-0 against.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have the consideration of a November 3rd ballot question and public hearing regarding the proposed moratorium ordinance.
Yeah, so you guys approved putting this before the voters last week. And so Mary called to my attention, you guys need to approve the ballot language, which you have there in front of you, and also set a time and a date for the public hearing. And, you know, I suppose we could have that either at your next meeting, which is September the 15th, or you could have it at your October the 6th meeting if you wanted just to have the hearing at the same time as one of your meetings.
How many days before the vote does the public hearing need to be?
It can be, it has to be at least 10 days before the vote on November 3rd.
And then isn't there also a rule for the posting of the public hearing?
Yes.
And how many days is that?
I believe that's 7 days prior to that.
I was thinking. it was-
So we're well within the window there.
Oh, I'm just thinking if we push it into October, we don't have that window.
Yeah. So if we had the hearing on October the 6th, you know, we would need to post the notice no later than the last week of October.
Okay.
I mean, last week of September, excuse me.
I wouldn't put the public hearing into October because you're gonna have ballots already being sent out by then.
Yeah, so we anticipate the ballots will be available October the 3rd.
Right, so you really want to have your public hearing before ballots start going out.
All right, so I make a motion, we set the public hearing for our next select board meeting.
I would
So-
second that.
We'll figure out how we stagger it if we do the public hearing at 6:30, and then after that, we move into the select board meeting.
Get her done.
We've done public hearings at 6 and then the select board meeting at 6:30, but whatever you
We
want to
haven't
do.
done that. Yes,
I
we have.
can't get here for 6.
Okay, well, then we won't do it then.
I'm like, they let me out a little early as it is,
Okay.
so.
And I thought the verbiage of it, of the ballot sounded okay to me.
It did me as well. I like the clarification.
Yeah.
you know.
I do have a question though.
Go ahead.
How's this gonna affect the ballot counters this year? I mean, they're gonna probably have a record number of voters again. Is this gonna put a burden on them is this something we really gotta do right now? I know a lot of towns are not doing anything besides the presidential election.
So we are not going to run this through through a ballot machine because we'd have to run another machine. And so we will be hand counting this, but Mary felt like because it's only one question and it's either yes or no, that it will be very easy to count those. And having helped with the counting of the school budget ballot back in July, that did actually go much quicker than I thought it would. You know, we counted well more than 1,000 ballots, and it only took 30 minutes or so for a group of us to do that.
Okay, I'm just looking out for our help.
Okay.
All right, so public hearing, we've set so take a vote on the date of the public hearing. So I'll entertain a motion to set that date for, is it September 15th? Is there a second?
Yes, second.
Yeah.
All right, all those in favor? And is Dan gone?
We don't see
Where
him.
did Dan go? Oh, he
Okay.
We're taking
disappeared.
more of the stress.
4-4-1 absent.
You chased him away, Ricky.
All right, and then the second part of that is I'll entertain a motion on the approval of the moratorium ordinance wording or the ballot item wording.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, Ernie,
Yeah, whatever.
quiet but seconded. All those in favor? All right, 4-4-1 absent. All right, next up, we have the consideration of tree removal at Bickford Ellis Cemetery. All right. Take a motion to open that.
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
Yes, I would second it.
All right, you're open for discussion.
I got a couple questions.
All right,
I do all the time. Phil, can you tell me where this cemetery is?
Yes, it's right on the border of Oakland and Belgrade on the McCraw Road.
Okay, I know where Juniper Lane is. I just never knew there was a cemetery there, I guess.
Yeah,
I
a
didn't
lot of
either.
people.
I looked it up on Google Earth.
Is that a town cemetery?
It used to be affiliated with the North Belgrade, before North Belgrade. What was it called?
Dearborn.
Dearborn. Thank you, Jack.
Okay.
Started way back then.
I guess that was way before my time.
Yeah.
Mine too.
so, but my understanding is that part of it is now on someone's personal property, so we're asking them to pay.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
And I will say that landowner has been really good about being agreeable to
Right.
doing that. And he's really been a partner in trying to maintain that little piece of property now.
So it's $550 for us
Correct.
and
For us.
$550 for him.
Yeah. Yes.
And so what do you need from us? We need to just approve it?
Yes.
Ma'am.
Are there any more trees over there or anything else that we should be concerned about right now?
That should take care of it right there.
Okay.
So we moved and seconded, did we?
We did.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's made a motion yet.
We haven't made a motion on this. We just opened the question.
Oh, sorry.
Well, I kind of did. Well, I made the motion to open it. And then some, yeah. I think it's been open and, yes.
All right. Is there any further discussion?
I'm just a little concerned that, I mean, I've been here all my life, which hasn't ended yet, and I knew that that was a town cemetery over there. We seem to have opened up several, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing.
Well, the main thing about it is we have one veteran that's buried there and right under the tree that's needs some help.
How did we find,
Bob Lewis found that out.
Yeah, if it makes you feel any better, Ricky, my very first day on the job that morning, Denny drove me over there and showed it to me and showed me this Revolutionary War soldier's grave there. And so,
fine, then let's do it.
All right. Do we have an agreement in writing from the property owner that they'll pay for half of the tree? Or
he has agreed to front his part of the money.
And is it really his responsibility? Did we ask him or did he offer?
I believe he offered to do
Yeah,
that.
he did. So he came to us concerned about the tree and said that if we would partner with him, he'd be willing to pay half the cost.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, he's really been fabulous about that.
Okay. I'll make the motion that we agree to take down this tree at the Bickford Ellis Cemetery, splitting the cost with the landowner.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ricky, how do you vote?
Yes.
Ernie, how do you vote? Kathy?
Yes.
Dan is back. Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
All right, 5 yeses.
Thank you.
Thank you, Phil.
Yep.
All right, next up, we have the warrant.
We have one more item. It is the consideration of the, oh, we skipped over that. Consideration of the code enforcement officer job description.
Oh, we did.
Letter
Sorry.
E.
Yep, I apologize. E, consideration of the code enforcement job description. Boy, I'm right on a roll tonight.
I read through it. It looked okay to me.
Looks a little bit tightened up from the 2013.
Yes.
Has Gary looked at this?
He has. He's looked at it and he has confirmed that that does accurately reflect what his job responsibilities are.
So do we have to, I suppose we have to approve it.
Yes, so this is something that was suggested through the comprehensive plan. So it's one more box that we're checking off on that plan.
Just so you know, the title page here says
Yes.
town manager job description, not code
Oh, it
enforcement.
sure does. Thank you, Dan.
I guess I didn't read it that closely, huh? It says on the front, but you know, there's a back sheet to it that said, I've got another one that says code enforcement officer on it.
Yeah,
that-
that's the
that was the-
2013 one.
Right.
Well,
So Kathy's like, well, crap, now I didn't read that way.
I looked at the code enforcement officer description, approved in 2013. Oh, it's okay.
Yeah, that's the old one.
Okay, so I didn't read it. I actually did.
So we've taken out things like that you have to have a high school diploma.
So as I said in there, you know, some of this includes some recommendations made by the MMA. They did not include a high school diploma in there, but really focus more on job experience within the construction trades or college courses or the equivalent of experience and training.
Oh, actually, I think it does say graduation from an accredited high school. So it's just written a little differently. All right, is there any more discussion? All right, I'll make a motion that we approve the updated code enforcement officer job description.
I second it.
You sure you don't want to put in that he may be required to be a harbor master too? They're gonna be doing this again.
Not yet. We'll check. We'll come back to that in 2021.
Be talking about that in next Tuesday, Dan.
All right, Dan, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rick,
Yep.
Kathy,
Yes, ma'am.
Ernie? And I vote yes as well. 5-4-0 against. Okay, now we're at the warrant. All right, Anthony, do you have that?
I do. It's warrant number 117 in the amount of $600,635.58.
I'll second that. Oh, actually, I'll move that warrant. Is there a second? Okay. Open for discussion? Does anyone have anything? All right. Seeing none, are we ready to vote? All right, Ernie, how do you vote on the warrant? Yes. Kathy?
Yes.
All right, Dan?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
All right, and I'm yes. I think that's one of the only times we've had a warrant that nobody had any questions on. So high five.
Well, it was pretty short since y'all just approved one last week, so.
Yeah,
Well, it
well,
was-
I've got the question on last week's that we still didn't have answered. What was the food that was on that last week's?
um,
oh, I think we did get an updated
Yeah,
email.
I sent an update on that, Dan. It was not a justifiable expense, so it was paid out of pocket.
Oh, okay. I didn't see the update, so.
All right, so moving on, town manager report.
So just a couple of quick things I want to mention. I got a call last week from a fellow who lives on Rockwood Drive, and apparently the only internet connection that they have there is DSL. So he's been talking with Spectrum about improving the connection there, and the neighbors are going to foot the cost of that, extending a high-speed connection out there. And Spectrum recommended to them that they apply for some grant to help cover the cost under the Connect Maine program, but private citizens cannot submit that grant application. It has to come from a town. So he was asking if the town would consider submitting the grant application. The neighbors plan on seeking no town funding. So if the grant is approved, they will fund the difference in order to extend high-speed internet to their area. And if you folks are agreeable to doing that, he also suggested that we might consider publicizing this opportunity to other underserved areas that might be willing to tap into the grant and then pay the balance for getting high-speed internet. So your thoughts?
I must say, I guess I don't really know the areas in town that are lacking broadband.
How about all of us?
Well, I mean, the way Spectrum's set up, some of their stuff's pretty screwy. Because I have internet down here at my house, but my daughter who built her house before me coming down this road can't get Spectrum to bring internet down to her unless she pays well over $1,000. And there's wires already coming down here, but they have to run another wire. So, I mean, I don't really like the way they do their work. She couldn't get them to come down, Spectrum to come down, and she couldn't get the other company here in town that does Consolidated or whatever it is.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come
The
down
one
either.
that's only open Monday through Friday.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we're going to ask for a grant, we ought to go around and find out where they need it, see if we can get it done for more than just one road too.
Yeah, and that's exactly what he suggested, Dan, is maybe we just try to put the word out that, hey, we're going to be applying for this, and if your area is underserved, let us know, but understand that the town doesn't intend to expend anything on this, that the neighbors would have to fund the balance of this.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But yeah, I think we ought to advertise it to other people too. So,
Kathy?
As someone that writes grants, I guess the first thing I'd want to know is there a deadline on this, or is it a rolling grant? How do they do?
There is a deadline, but it's not until the beginning of next year. So there's still plenty of time to apply for the grant. I can't recall what the date is. I went online and looked it up, Kathy, but they have an annual deadline for this.
All right, but I also agree that other people should be apprised of the grant and what's available to them. And I think that it's important for the town to support it without giving them money. I think what I'm saying is that I think we should make it easy for people to apply for this grant, and we should be supportive of them as long as it doesn't cost us any money.
Yeah, and in fact, it won't even cost us any time. So Spectrum actually fills out the grant application for them, and then the town signs off on it. So there's not even any manpower involved with it.
So your daughter needs to write a grant, Dan.
Yeah.
She needs, no, seriously, she needs to get in on it.
Well, I think what she needs to do is contact Spectrum and they write the grant.
Well, yeah, because it certainly is one of the great challenges, as you know, in rural Maine is the lack of decent internet connections. So people can do their business.
I don't know, according to the state, everybody who wanted it got it while during this COVID thing. That's what they reported on the news just recently.
Well, where did you go? Where did you go a little while ago when you left us?
Yeah. Had to reset my internet because it's lousy.
Okay. I rest my case. We have to do that every once in a while too. So, yeah.
All right, next up.
So I will, I'll start working on that later this week. There will be the business group is not planning on doing Harvest Fest this year, just sort of an FYI, although Union Church has some activities planned for October the 12th. And they asked Lily if she would consider having another artisan fair on the Village Green. And so Lily is working on that. Apparently the artisans are pretty excited about having that opportunity again. And then just two other quick things, just a reminder that we'll be closed on Monday because it'll be Labor Day. And then also after our next meeting on September the 15th, the town manager is going to take a little 3-day vacation. So all of the follow-up items that I typically do after a meeting, I'll address the following week.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anything else that we need to discuss, or do we want to take a 2-minute break in between select board meeting and the executive session?
Did we ever hear back from Carol Johnson?
Oh, we did not.
She was unable to get on the Zoom call, so she said, just put me off until the next time.
Okay, so I'll make a motion that we, well, untable it for tonight and table it till the next meeting. All right, all those in favor? All right, 5-4-0 against. We'll see Carol at the next meeting. Ernie, did you have something?
Yeah. Just in background, at the warrant last week, Rick was asking about the hourly rate. Did you for Jason? Did you figure that out, Anthony, or did I miss it?
Mary does recall what some of you guys did, that there is a policy, but we are still searching for that policy.
Oh, okay. Just keep working on it, I guess.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
so I'll make a motion for a 5-minute break.
Second that.
All right, all those in favor? All right. See you guys in 5.